My name is Kabelo Mabalani. At the age of 19, I was a rock star. I had it all, including drugs and alcohol. But you don't have to be a rock star to get addicted. Drug and alcohol abuse is destroying countless lives and communities. Users are desperate for help. They want self-respect. They want to lead normal lives again. They want to kick it.
My name's Justin Jansen. Originally, I think, born Yeovil, Bears Valley side. Grew up in Edenvale, and I've been clean since the 13th of September 2010, so it's almost 6 years and 11 months.
You've got a great story to tell.
I think maybe outside of me, people can say it's a great story of overcoming, you know. But for me, it's just been what it's been, you know. It's been hard, it's been painful, it's been fact-facing. My mom left at a young age. She left my dad to be a father to 2 boys. He was young.
His mother didn't want to see them. There was a time she was busy running brothels and she wasn't interested in the children. But I had them 7 days a week, and so on one weekend a month I would force her to take the children so that I could have a break.
My dad always kind of said she wanted a jaw, she wanted to party a bit more. I thought it was me. Am I not good enough? Why won't she stay?
His mother was also a drug addict. Not when we married, she became a drug addict after I divorced her. That's when her drug problem started. She met Gordon, and Gordon was the one that introduced her to drugs.
Him and my mom's relationship was chaotic. He's been a part of her life as far back as I know and could remember and can remember. Him and her were like masters in crime together. Bonnie and Clyde, I suppose, if you have to look at it in an old story. I once unfolded a piece of paper and spilt all this white powder onto myself. And like they all stood up and they told me it was like for the car battery. So I think that was actually my first encounter. My mom was into brothels and prostitution. She owned 3 brothels. And like a lot of time that I had to get to spend with her would be in a brothel, being told to hide, being given money to go play arcade games, but never really with her. Kind of started using at 12 years old. In a park in Edenvale, we had just come from Standard 5 into Standard 6, and there were these matric guys. They were going to be the next year's matrics, and they had like this envelope of marijuana. I didn't hear the bad stories about drugs, you know, the stories that you hear at school and with the school speakers. No one died, no one got arrested, no one got hurt, and I learned like if I could do this, I could be a part of something. And that time, I think at about 14 years old, my dad got arrested and he went to jail. He spent from the ages of 14 to about 18 in prison.
And who took care of you then?
My mom kind of, when I say kind of, it's like she almost came back into our lives. I think she didn't know a lot what to do with me when she came back into our lives. She was like in and out a lot. I really wanted her attention, and I found the way to get it was to do drugs with her. It was chaotic, it was up and down, it was, my first hit of freebase crack was cooked up by my mom.
When she was on drugs, they were a team together. They would laugh and have fun. But I think that what, to me, was more of them being in cahoots together with the drugs.
She was a beautiful soul. She was equally as lost as I was, you know.
So you were running your mom's business now?
What happened was my mom found some heroin in my wallet, and she thought it was cocaine, and she sniffed it and she OD'd. And when she came home at a friend's flat, she came in the house, she cleared out the flats, and she said, no son of mine's going to end up on the streets. From now on, you're going to drive the prostitutes at night, you're going to drive the fraud people in the day, and I'll give you the money for drugs. And I mean, like, I look back on that, at that time, I was like, I got the coolest mom. Like, look at this. And my friends, like, you got such a cool mom. But it's that, like, she loved me to death.
From 12 years old, you know, going from marijuana to the really hectic stuff, you're dealing with prostitutes. I mean, were there any run-ins with the law?
I have about 17 criminal convictions as far as I can remember.
17?
17. First time I got arrested was with my mom. You know, she went to Sun City, I went to Boksburg. I saw my dad then.
That really broke my heart. I had to protect him in there because the gangs were after him of him being so young. So he doesn't know what it cost me to keep him safe inside there.
And I remember standing in that grill and he came to me and like I just started crying, and I'll never forget, he put his hands through the bars and he wiped the tears off my face and he was like, now's not the time to cry. Now you got to be strong, you know.
What was the lowest point, and what was that point when things started to turn for the better?
The last thing my mom ever did for me was put me in rehab. She had come out of jail, she was clean. I was staying in the park next to Auckland Park and I'd like force her to give me money. I'd force her by going, you did this to me, the reason why I'm like this is because you were never a mom. And I think she felt guilty on that, and I went into treatment and government treatment centre, and she died. My dad came there.
How did she die again?
She died drugs.
OD?
OD. My youngest brother found her. She was in like this parole halfway house set up by the Chev, the Jewish people, and she died in there. She never got a chance to recover, you know, and I've always looked at it like there's no ways we could have lived together. One of us had to go. And after she died, that enabler wasn't around anymore, you know, and that's when it started to escalate. That's when it became from driving prostitutes around and driving her fraud people around to me actually doing it myself. And then finally in 2005, it like all added up, and that's when I got sentenced, you know. That was when everything caught up. There was no more waiting trial. There was no more you might get out. It was like, I'll never forget what the judge said to me in Randburg Court that day. She said, Mr. Jansen, you're a danger to society. At that moment when she hit down like that little gavel and gave me that sentence, like I didn't understand the damage that I was doing. I was just trying to be okay. I was just trying to feel okay.
It's not every day that you hear a story of such immense adversity and triumph. But Justin has said time and time again that he doesn't see his life as a story of inspiration, but just simply as the story of his life.
And when did it start to turn for you?
2008, when I found out that I was HIV positive in jail. I was in Paulsmoor. I found out that I was HIV positive by mistake. I had this diet ticket, and this diet ticket was a special high protein diet ticket, and I bought it from one of the cooks.
Why would you need a diet ticket?
You get extra mash, you get peanut butter, you get some more vats.
So if you get a certain ticket, you get a better meal.
You get a better meal, and if you're HIV positive, you get like better food than what a normal prisoner gets. So I went to the cook and I was like, I've got this diet ticket. And he was like, look, the kitchen got a cater for the diet, so we need a verslag, they call it, a letter from the doctor to say that you're on this diet. So I went there and to the nurse and I was like, I've transferred in and I've got this diet. And she said, like, this is a HIV diet. And I was like, yeah, I'm HIV positive. She was like, okay, well, just for our records, we need to do the tests. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm sentenced, I'm doing fraud in prison, I've got fraud, but it never stopped me, you know, and like, I remember sitting there for the next 2 weeks stressing, like, they're gonna come get me, they're gonna charge me. The warder, he came and fetched me, took me down to the hospital. I walked into that nurse's office. She was like, yeah, the results of your test are back, and you're right, here's your diet, you are HIV positive.
And you didn't know at that time?
Most scared I've ever been in my life, man. That was the breaking point for me.
So how did you contract the virus?
Sharing needles.
Are you assuming this is how you contracted it, or you know without a shadow of a doubt?
It's an assumption based on without a shadow of a doubt,
Sure.
because I was using heroin. I didn't have time for sex.
Okay.
I was sharing needles, and some of the people around me have subsequently died, you know, from the virus. Whether I gave it to them or whether they gave it to me, you know, it was a big part of Hillbrow and what was going on, you know.
Is this what makes Justin change?
It's the beginning of the end. It is not the end. I was scared. I was alone. I couldn't share it with anyone. I didn't know about the virus. I thought I was going to die. And I'd sit there at night and I'd look at the roof and I'd be like, am I never going to know what it's like to have a bank account? Am I never going to know what it's like to have a lady? Internally, a decision was made like, I'm tired, man, I'm done, and I need to know something more about life. I can't go out without having traveled, without having seen anything but frickin' drugs and Hillbrow. And to deal with it in Paulsmore, I smoked crystal meth as much as I could and smoked weed every day. I got the social worker to phone my dad, who I don't even think knew I was in Paulsmore. And firstly to tell my dad, can he help me with a place to stay? And to tell him that I'm HIV positive.
And when he did tell me that he was HIV positive, I was disappointed, but I love him. It's something you accept as a father. You're disappointed, but life carries on. I love him, and that's it. I accept it. It doesn't play a part in my life, in his status. It doesn't mean I look at him as a normal person, nothing wrong with him.
I remember sitting opposite the desk of the social worker, and he told my dad, like, I'm in jail and I need a place to go, and about my status. And I remember hearing his voice through the phone. He said, you told my boy he must come home. And like, I came home, and like, I really thought I was done. And like, I came out with like a real willingness. But I hadn't done any of the work inside to heal. I hadn't accepted what had gone on in my life. I didn't realize like a lot of my choices were my responsibility. Like, I still could play that blame game. It's not so much me. And like, I used on all those excuses. I used on not having a mom. It didn't bring her back. And I used on my dad, and it didn't change that. And I used on going to prison, and it didn't change that. And I used on being HIV positive, and it still didn't change that. And the next 7 years, from 2003 to 2010, was in a rehab, out of rehab, running away, on the streets. I mean, if I look at after coming out of prison 2008 and my dad helping me and giving me his house and me sitting in front of him, I remember that day where he found out I was using again, and like I'd like really tried to do well, you know, and that look of disappointment and hurt in his face, he couldn't understand, like, why did I go back? Like, after finding out, coming out of jail, finding out about my HIV status, why would I go back to that?
A part of him taking drugs, I blamed myself for, because at one stage in my life, I did take drugs, but more on the recreational side. So there was for a period of time, I blamed myself for how he ended up. But then I realized we all make choices in life, and he made those choices to go down that road.
And eventually my dad stopped making decisions based on feeling guilty. And I think he saw a really good psychologist who said, it's not your fault. And it's possibly the best thing that he did for me was to say, I can't watch you doing this anymore. I can't watch you, my oldest son, killing yourself in front of me.
And then we saw a psychiatrist together, and he then told me, he said, you can spend all the money you got on getting him sober, and at the end of the day, you will be broke and he'll still be high. And then he told me I must use tough love. And that's when I told Justin he's got to get out and do this on his own.
The worst thing for me that he ever said was, like, I wish you were dead so I could mourn you and bury you and get over you, because I can't watch you doing this anymore. I did consider ending my life on various occasions, some crazy occasions. Every time I get arrested and I'd manage to get a needle or a syringe into a police station, I would fill it up with air and I'd try to shoot up the air into my vein to try and die because I just couldn't deal with the withdrawals. I remember once being in John Foster police station and threatening to my dad, if you don't get me out of here, I'm going to kill myself. And all he did was call the police and they put me on suicide watch. But the real time where I really tried, that I really wanted to die, was prior to getting clean, living on those streets of Durban. I'd phone him and he'd say, don't phone me. You only phone me when you want something. And like there was no one around anymore and I really wanted to be clean. Sorry, I get a bit emotional about that. I turned to a God that I didn't really believe in, blamed, and I was like, I'm not going to say what I said because there's a lot of swearing involved in it, but it was something like, Mother, help me or let me die. And I think that was the moment that something happened. Like I was sitting on the streets opposite North Beach, and this guy came there and he was like, I think I was sitting outside his block of flats, and he was like, you look like you really need help. How can I help you? And like for me, yeah, this was like a hassle. I was going to give him this whole story, and I gave him the story. I was like, I'm staying in the shelter and they stole all my clothes and I need to get back to my family in Joburg, and like, please can you help me with money because I need a bus ticket to Joburg. And like he was like, I'm going to help you. And he went upstairs and he got like one of those army rucksacks with some clothes in, and he brought like an ice cream container called a skafton of like biryani. He gave it to me and he gave me 1,000 rand. And I remember walking down this road and I was left to the point where I was scoring, or like straight to Durban Station. And I was like, I'm going to buy this ticket. I didn't think I was going to buy this ticket because I'm going to get clean, and I didn't think I was going to buy this ticket because I was going to my family. I was just like, I'm going to buy this ticket and go back to Hillbrow, go back to Joburg, you know, and like if I'm going to die, you know, I wanted to die. Like, I'm gonna die, so like I'm gonna go back to Hillbrow where the drugs are cheaper, everyone knows me, and it's easier.
We were new in the recovery business. We didn't know where this was gonna lead us. All we knew at that point was all we wanted to do was help addicts. At any cost, we were like there to go and help addicts. And when we got this call, we were asked to pick up a guy from McDonald's in Boksburg. When we got there, Gordon realized that the guy that was with the guy we were supposed to have fetched was his, let's call it his stepson.
At that moment, the desperation within me, nothing else mattered. They cared enough about someone like me to give me a last chance, because I don't think there was another chance. There wasn't anyone around anymore, you know. I'd destroyed them, I'd hurt them too much, and he helped me to save my life, you know.
And it's weird because we were there to fetch somebody else, but that guy for some reason, wasn't exactly ready right then, or he had a bit of money on him and he wanted to go and use. And we just got talking to Justin. He said, oh, well, would you like some help? And he said, yeah, hell yes, let's go now. And that was the beginning of our route with Justin.
I didn't know what was going to happen that day. I didn't know that I was going to lean over, put that shot of heroin in my arm, go make some money, be standing at this McDonald's in Boksburg where I'm never usually standing. I went to my first 12-step fellowship meeting that night. I was 42 kilos. I was on the verge of full-blown AIDS. I was full of open sores and marks.
The first about 10 days, it was very traumatic for Justin. Coming off heroin, it's no small task, but he was a real soldier. He soldiered on.
Since the 12th of September, was the last time I've used any mood or mind-altering substance, from a headache tablet, I'm talking about codeine, Miprodol, I don't touch. Alcohol, marijuana, I don't eat food with alcohol in it. I haven't touched any mood or mind-altering substance since the 13th of September 2010. Today, my life is like a fairy tale. It's completely unbelievable. My partner and myself, I'm expecting a baby, and that's a miracle in itself. And the fact that someone like me can have an HIV-negative baby, and we have one, and it's a boy.
2 or 3 days ago, I received a call from Justin, and he told me that, Brett, do you know that I'm expecting my first child? I was, Justin, just repeat that. He said, I am about to have my first child. Now, I've been through this walk with Justin. There's been some hectic moments where at one point he thought he would never have a child. He would never even have a girlfriend in his life.
Brett, he asked me, he said, what are the dreams that addiction have stolen from you? And I said, like I was a really good soccer player, and it took that away. And I'll never be able to give my dad a grandkid, and I'll never have someone who loves me, who will accept me for me. Everything that I thought that wasn't possible is like possible. I've got business, and I don't know how that happened. Like a bank account, like I sleep on a queen-size bed as opposed to a cardboard box.
I'm very proud of him. I'm glad he's found a wonderful woman, which I think she's very good for him. I never ever thought that would happen. He's making me a grandfather. That makes me even more prouder. And yes, I love him to death, and he's turned out to be a great guy. He really has.
My business is called One to Be Free. I like to say punished for purpose. The reason why I say that is like everything I've been through, my mess, is somehow translated into some type of message. I help addicts, I help people like me, deal with families. I got an understanding of what I put my family through when I started dealing with other people's families. We're a reintegration secondary care. We help guys after they've come out of rehab, put their lives together, get their families back, get jobs, know what it feels like to get an ID book for some of them. Simple sometimes, like the guy off the street, how to make a bed, man, how to do some dishes, how to just like live life and do the simple things. And be grateful for those things, you know. Like today I hate dishes. I remember the day I had my first dishes, I was like, wow. Like, these are mine, you know, these are my dishes, you know. Now I hate them, you know, like I look at the dishwasher, I'm like, For someone out there who's still using, you know, I'd say that there is hope. I'd say, like, I know you feel alone and like you're the only one and no one understands, but there are people there, and there are people who do understand. And it's always like if you reach your hand out of the darkness, someone will be there to help. But you gotta reach your hand out.